Let's talk about plants. Science video for 4th grade. Unit 2. Teacher Gustavo Cerda Science. Plants have different and similar characteristics. There are about 5 million species of plants in the whole world. Most of the plants have stems, roots, and leaves. Many have flowers, but not all of them. Many produce fruits, but not all of them. Many plants reproduce sexually, and many of them reproduce asexually. Many plants produce with seeds, and many other plants produce with spores. Among all the species of plants, we have huge trees, squat bushes, long grasses, pine trees with pine cones, big bright flowers and tiny pale flowers. We can find plants in the jungle, on the plains, in the desert, or on the mountains. There are many different types of leaves. Some plants have flat broad leaves, some have narrow needles, some have wrinkles, some are rolled, some are busy, and some are prickly. Others can be smooth and shiny. What is the most important about the plant's leaves? It is that they can make most of the food that the plant needs by a process called photosynthesis. What is photosynthesis? Photosynthesis is a process that all plants follow to change the energy from the sun, the carbon dioxide, water, and minerals into glucose and oxygen. The chlorophyll in the leaves uses the sunlight to change water and carbon dioxide into sugar and oxygen. The plant expels oxygen back into the air and uses the sugar as food. This food allows the plant to live and grow. What is chlorophyll? Chlorophyll is basically what gives the leaves the green color. In this microscope view in the picture, we can see some green spots. Those green spots that look like circles are called chloroplasts, and those are the ones that give the green color to the leaves and the plants. In the next video, you can watch the different types of plant reproduction. Please enjoy watching the video.
One pleasant evening, Spiky was enjoying the weather in a park. He saw a gardener planting rose stems into the soil. He thought to himself, aren't we supposed to sow seeds to grow a plant? What do you think? Will the rose stems grow into new plants? The answer is yes. Many plants can be grown without seeds. The process of producing offspring is called reproduction. There are two modes of reproduction in plants: sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. The fusion of male and female gametes is called sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction starts with pollination, which is the transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of a flower. The male gametes of a flower are carried in pollen grains, and the female gametes are carried in ovules. Most flowers have both male and female parts in one flower. Such flowers are called bisexual. They prefer self-pollination. On the other hand, some plant species have separate male and female flowers. Such flowers are called unisexual flowers. These flowers require cross-pollination for reproduction. For example, tomatoes and peas have bisexual flowers, while cucumbers have flowers that are unisexual. When pollen falls onto a flower stigma, it forms a pollen tube that leads to the flower's ovary. There, the pollen cells fuse with the female gametes in the ovule to form a seed. This seed carries a baby plant called an embryo inside of it. Each time a seed is planted into the soil and treated with appropriate conditions, it grows into a seedling, which eventually grows into a new plant. Sexual reproduction happens inside of a flower. Therefore, flowers are the reproductive parts of plants. Oh, but I bet you're wondering, what is asexual reproduction? Well, we know that plants have roots, stems, and leaves. These parts are called the vegetative parts of a plant. When a new plant is formed using these parts, the process is called vegetative propagation or asexual reproduction. In asexual reproduction, the fusion of male and female gametes is not required. Let's see how asexual reproduction takes place. There are different methods of vegetative reproduction: cutting, layering, grafting, and budding. Let's have a look at each method in detail. Spiky saw the method of cutting in the park. The rose plant can be grown by cutting off part of its stem with 2 or more nodes and then planting it in the ground. This stem will grow into a new plant. In some plants, you don't need to cut the stem. Instead, a branch can bury itself in the soil while it is still attached to the parent plant. This branch is called a layer or a runner. The layer develops new roots and leaves and eventually grows into a new plant. This is known as layering. Did you know that grass is propagated by layering? The most interesting type of vegetative reproduction is grafting. In grafting, a twig from one tree is joined to a stem from another tree of the same kind. Grafting is most often done with fruit trees like citrus and mango trees to produce new and improved varieties. Then we have budding. What do you think budding means? Budding is like grafting, except that a bud is used instead of a twig. The bud is joined to the base of a young plant, and the rest of the host plant is cut off. Later, the bud grows into its own kind of plant. Budding is also done in fruit trees like peach and plum trees. Let's summarize. The process of producing offspring is called reproduction. There are 2 methods of reproduction in plants: sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. In sexual reproduction, flowers are the organs of reproduction. During pollination, pollen grains, which contain male gametes, fuse with the female gametes in the ovary. Seeds are formed at the end of sexual reproduction. In asexual reproduction, vegetative parts of a parent plant directly produce offspring. There's no need for fusion between male and female gametes. Examples of this include cutting, layering, grafting, and budding. No seeds are formed at the end of asexual reproduction.
For next week, you must accomplish the following. For the first session of the week, 1. Read pages 39, 40, 41, and 42. 2. Complete the exercise on page 41 about the characteristics of those fruits. For the second session of the week, 1. Investigate about 5 fruits different from the fruits on page 41. 2. Make a presentation with those fruits. In your presentation, you must show a picture and describe 3 characteristics of each fruit. Thank you. Enjoy learning about plants.